All right, let's talk about authentication and authorization. They sound so similar, right? But getting them wrong can lead to an absolute total disaster. So in this explainer, we're going to break it all down, what they are, why they're different, and how you can get them right to keep your apps and, more importantly, your users safe.
Just picture this. You walk into work on Monday, and that's the first thing you hear. That sentence sends a shiver down every developer's spine. It's the ultimate nightmare. And you know what's crazy? It happens way more often than you'd think. And it almost always starts with one tiny little mistake.
And look how fast everything just falls apart. At 3 a.m., a hacker finds one little unlocked door. 5 minutes later, they've downloaded your entire user list. And by the time you're pouring your first cup of coffee at 8 a.m., the company is already staring down a lawsuit. It happens that fast.
So what caused this whole mess? Well, here they are. The 3 big mistakes. First, just storing passwords in plain text. Yikes. Second, sessions that just live forever. And then the knockout punch, an admin route with zero security. Nothing. It's like leaving the bank vault door wide open with a "come on in" sign.
So what's the price tag for a mistake like this? Well, according to IBM, the average cost of a data breach is, wait for it, $4.5 million. That's not just a bad day. That's a number that can literally put a company out of business.
And it's not just about the cash you lose up front. The hit to your company's value is immediate and brutal. A 30% drop in your stock price, that's not a market fluctuation. That's investors screaming, "We don't trust you anymore."
But honestly, the numbers that really matter are the people. We're talking about 100,000 users, 100,000 real people whose data, whose passwords were just taken. That's a massive betrayal of trust.
Okay, so how do we stop this nightmare scenario from ever happening? It all starts right here. We have to get crystal clear on the fundamental difference between authentication and authorization. Yeah, they sound alike, but they do 2 totally different jobs, and both are absolutely critical.
My favorite way to explain this is the hotel analogy. It just makes everything click. So, authentication, that's you at the check-in desk. You show your ID, you prove you are who you say you are. Yep, I'm Jane Doe. Then, authorization. That's the key card they give you. It's not a master key. It's programmed to only open your room, 305, and maybe the gym, not the penthouse suite, right?
Let's put that in more technical terms. Authentication is all about answering one question. Who are you? It happens just once, right when you log in. Get it wrong, you get a 401 unauthorized. Simple. But authorization is a different beast. It asks, okay, now that we know who you are, what are you allowed to do? And this check happens over and over on every single protected request. If you try to open a door you don't have a key for, you get a 403 forbidden. So you might be wondering, how do modern apps handle all this, especially when everything is stateless? I mean, we can't be hitting the database to check permissions every single time someone clicks a button, right? It would grind everything to a halt. What we need is something smarter, like a secure, unforgeable digital ticket. And that really is the million-dollar question for modern web security, isn't it? How can a server trust that a request is legit without having to phone home to the main database every single time? It's a huge challenge. Well, the answer, my friends, is the JSON Web Token, or JWT for short. And the best way to think about it is like a high-tech, tamper-proof digital concert ticket. It's this little packet of information that carries all the proof the server needs all by itself. So every JWT has 3 parts. You've got the header, which is like, hey, this is the type of ticket. Then you have the payload, which has your user info, your user ID, your roles. Now this is the part everyone needs to hear. The payload is readable by anyone. It is not encrypted. The magic, the real security, is in the 3rd part, the signature. Think of it like a cryptographic hologram that proves the first 2 parts haven't been messed with.
So, let's say some clever user tries to be sneaky. They take their JWT, decode the payload, and change their role from guest to admin. What happens? The second they change even one character, that cryptographic signature, that hologram, is broken. It no longer matches the payload. The server takes one look, sees the mismatch and goes, nope, this is a fake. Request denied.
Okay, so our user is authenticated, the JWT says they're legit, they're in the building. But now comes the next crucial step. What are they actually allowed to do in there? This is where authorization takes over.
Now, one of the smartest ways to handle this is something called Role-Based Access Control, or RBAC.
The idea is brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to manage permissions for every single user, which would be a nightmare, you just create roles. Admin, editor, viewer. You give permissions to the roles, and then you just assign users to a role. It makes life so much easier as your app grows.
And the flow is super straightforward. Step 1, user logs in, gets authenticated. Step 2, for every action they try to take, the server cracks open their JWT and checks their role. Step 3, the server looks up what that role can do. And Step 4, access granted or access denied. Simple, clean, and secure.
All right, we've covered the theory. Now let's turn this into a practical checklist. These are the absolute must-dos, the non-negotiables, to make sure you never have that horrible Monday morning we talked about at the beginning.
Rule number 1, and this is the big one, password security. I'm going to say this as clearly as I can. Never, ever store passwords in plain text. Don't do it. You need to hash them, and you need to use a slow algorithm, like bcrypt. This makes it a total nightmare for hackers to crack, even if they steal your whole database.
Next up, and we're going to hammer this home, authentication is not authorization. Just because someone's logged in doesn't mean they get the keys to the kingdom. You have to check their permissions for every single protected request. I don't care if it's an API call or a form submission. Check it every single time.
Okay, let's talk about tokens. If a hacker steals a token that never expires, guess what? They have a permanent key to your house. That's a disaster. That's why your access tokens need to have a short lifespan, like 15 minutes, tops. You can pair them with a longer-lived refresh token, which is a much safer way to keep users logged in.
And one last super important reminder about those JWTs. Remember what I said about the payload? It's like a postcard, not a sealed envelope. Anyone can read it. So please, please do not put sensitive stuff in there. No credit cards, no social security numbers, nothing like that. Just the basics you need, like the user ID and their role. That's it.
Now, if you're thinking, this is all just for edge cases, listen to this. A recent report from Verizon found that a whopping 81% of breaches, 81%, are because of stolen or weak passwords. So getting these basics right, it's not just best practice. It is literally your most important line of defense.
So, I want to leave you with this thought to take back to your own projects. You went to all the trouble to put a really strong lock on the front door. That's your authentication, and that's awesome. But did you remember to give out the right keys? Did you think about who gets access to what? Because at the end of the day, giving everyone the master key is pretty much the same as not locking the door at all.